What is up? Welcome back to the Be Unexpected podcast with Jake Burnside and Wyatt Spalding. Today we're joined with our guest, Dylan Sungraf, who is my former basketball and flag football coach for Special Olympics. Dylan, what's up, man?
How we doing? Glad to be on the podcast today.
Yeah, man. Glad you could join us. So, a funny story about how I met Dylan. Dylan went to Fremont High, just like Jake and I, and he graduated with both of our older sisters, Jessie and Cassie. But then when I met Dylan, his first day of Special Olympic basketball practice, I'm like this shy, awkward middle schooler, and we're stretching, and Dylan's like, Wyatt Spalding, I know your sister. And I just was like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? Just like I was trying, it's like, okay, I don't know you.
Yeah, I definitely remember that day because I'm like, oh man, Spalding and Spalding got to put two together. So
I went home and made sure she actually knew. He's like, do you know Dylan? Like,
and then our friendship just grew from there.
Yeah. Was that your first year also coaching Special Olympics?
I'm trying to think. You're aging me here.
That was
I believe that was my first year.
Okay,
No,
yeah, because
second year.
Second year? Okay.
Second year,
So it's like I thought we came in together, but you had me by so you started coaching Special Olympics your sophomore year of high school?
Yeah, so 2007.
Okay.
That's when I started, and I started with basketball. So
okay. Yeah.
15 years. Wow.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
I know.
Crazy.
Dylan, what was the pull to get involved in Special Olympics? Were some of your friends doing it, or did you just want to get involved?
None of my friends were really doing it. I just saw. I was actually working at the Y part-time then, and I just saw Corey and how he was basically like the only guy there. Corey Piercy, so referring to him. And so me being me wanted to do something in coaching because sports has been my life for years. I just went up to him. I'm like, hey, what's this? Do you need help? And he's just like, you actually want to help? Like, come on board. So it's done from starting with just watching them, and then it turned into coaching. And then I really got involved at school at Fremont High. We had a Tiger Pals, and it's an adaptive PE class that I did as much as I could. So
nice.
I kind of just flourished after meeting Corey.
Yeah, definitely. And so you coached basketball. I feel like that's where everybody starts. They all just start coaching basketball because everybody does basketball. And then the next year you coached. Yeah, I guess we didn't have football till the next year, but the next year you coach football, right?
Yep. So football started roughly in 2009.
Yeah,
like a demo sport. So I did basketball and football were my main sports. I mean, I feel like I've done every sport in Fremont that Fremont's offered coaching wise. So
yeah, but there are the sports you're like, yeah, I actually do want to coach this sport. Another sport's like, well, there's no one else, and I'll help out. I don't know much about this sport, but
they didn't have when the Special Olympics first got started in Fremont. It wasn't there was no football right away.
No, so football started actually. Don't quote me on this, but it might have been nationwide in 2009. So in 2010, when it was a sport offered at that time, it was called National Games, Special Olympic National Games. It was a demo sport. So it wasn't really sanctioned per se on the Special Olympic sports. But so, yeah, it's a relatively, if you want to think about it, it's a relatively new sport in Special Olympics International. So yeah, it's going on 13 years.
Yeah, I remember that because I couldn't play the first year because my parents wouldn't let me. I had to wait till I got to high school.
And yeah, I mean, it was all like, it was just, we're all treading new water at that point. We didn't know if it would really flourish or if it would just kind of be like, oh, it didn't really work out. So we'll move on to a different sport. But
and you would think in Nebraska it would work out because football.
I mean, us at the state office, I mean, I haven't been in the state office for more than 6 months now, but it really, talking to previous staff employees and current staff employees, it really just took off like a rocket because it was a new sport. Everybody wanted to do the new sport and try it out and see if it works. And I mean, there's been teams that have been a part of it for 10 plus years now. So
Yeah. That's
When they
awesome.
first got it started, was it just 7-on-7 or what like 7-on-7 flag or what were like some specific modifications?
it's always been 5-on-5.
5-on-5.
The rules have really changed over the years. So they've it's basic flag football rules, but there's some modifications due to the athletes' kind of ability. So I know in the first couple years the rules switched like every year, so that was really hard to adapt. But I know now that we have grown the sport, it's the rules are pretty set. I mean, been some rule changes recently that I think have been good for the sport, and hopefully we can add more rules and change it as long as it goes. So, but yeah, very early stages is everybody's just like, how do we do this? How do we make it work? So there's a lot of adapting to the process.
Oh yeah. Cause I remember like we didn't even have to wear mouth guards right away.
No, the very first year it wasn't. And then like we're like, oh yeah, mouth guards are probably essential. And then it started doing to wear pockets with no flags or pockets without shorts without pockets, my bad, was a big one because at first they didn't have that, but then they changed that due to athletes' finger injuries and all that. And then the whole flag things changed. So there's been a lot of rules of the use of flags and different kind of flags and how many flags are on the belt. So
Nice. So, you're going through high school and everything, and what have you like learned? What were like some of the lessons you learned through Special Olympics, whether it was just you learned about yourself or watching athletes or the coaches, like through high school and when you got into college?
I learned a lot of life lessons. I mean, I think the biggest one is just don't judge anybody, no matter their ability or disability. Just don't judge. And once you get to know that, it kind of helps out to where, like, I noticed that some of the people at Fremont High, when I started hanging around this Special Olympic athletes and stuff, they're just like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "They're just one of us." Like, it's crazy how people judge
Yeah.
Special Olympic athletes and kids with and without disabilities. So, I mean, right now, I think I learned a lot from it. To just don't judge a book by its covers is probably the main lesson I learned when I first started out. So, because you don't know them until you get to know them. So it worked out like that. I think that's the biggest thing, kind of takeaway I've gotten from doing this for so long was.
Yeah. Did you ever try to get your friends to come watch you coach? Because I remember when I started playing, like Wes, and I would tell people like, no, dude, you gotta come watch. Like, it's not like a YMCA, like it's slow. Like
Yeah.
I play at the competitive level and West coaches. So like, they don't know. And I get it. Like they don't at that time, they didn't really promote it that much,
Yeah.
And so and Jake, you came like once or twice, I think.
Yeah, I did. It's a real deal, man. And it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
But people do need to check it out.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my friends from high school didn't really want anything to do with it. I'm just like, you guys got to give it a shot. Come out to practice, come help coach, come do this, just be kind of a fan in the stand. But I didn't really get much support from my friends doing this. And then the more I started doing it, the more they realized like, oh, actually Dylan actually enjoys this. But it never panned out to them like wanting to coach or come out or even volunteer at a tournament. I noticed that when Wyatt started, everybody started like coming because the school, everybody knew Wyatt at school. Everybody knew that he was the cool kid, but he would get people to come out and watch tournament games. And when we held our regional tournaments at Fremont, at the YMCA in Fremont, I mean, it was packed for Wyatt's games because he got people out there.
Yeah.
And those are some of the best memories I have coaching, was seeing kind of the first games at Fremont where the Fremont High basketball team and came out and supported Wyatt and stuff like that. But everybody knew Wyatt and everybody would come out and watch him. And I think that's really great for him.
I think I did kind of guilt tripped him too, because I was like, I sit on the bench for all your guys' games. You can't come like to my games.
Yeah.
Just like,
and they saw winners. Like Fremont Special Olympics was a winner at the time, and
Yeah, dude,
It's
we were like top teams in the state. Like if you had to rank us, like we were always getting like first or second. Like not
we
just my team, but all the teams.
I mean,
So
there's
did you coach like just kind of the higher level always, or did you ever coach like the the like the lower level
I mean,
teams?
I started out the lower level, and then
Okay.
when Corey gained my confidence, like his confidence in me, and then I kind of gained confidence in coaching. I'm just like, I want to be the best. Like I want to coach the best. I want to be the best. I want to push our athletes to be the best. So it was 2 or 3 years before I really started coaching the higher functioning teams and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, and see that's what I liked about you because it's like, and but like you said, you adapt to like what the athlete's level is, and there are some teams where it is kind of like YMCA, but that's their level. That's what they can do. But you were like, I want to push the best players to be the best because like, we all weren't like just there to have fun. There were like a lot of us coaches and players like you and I. It's like, dude, we want to win.
Yeah, we want
Like,
to win.
yeah, it's
I,
like we're not here. I mean, yeah, we're here to have fun, but like it's nice to win too. Like we want to try to be the best team out there. So
I don't know about you two, but I've always wanted. I'm very competitive. I always wanted to win, and
mhm,
losing stinks. Like everybody hates lose, but sometimes you got to lose to really kind of like understand like it's okay to lose. But
right.
yeah, like growing up playing sports, I was always on the best teams, always competed on the best team. So I think I just turned that passion into coaching to where I wanted to coach the best teams, push the athletes to be the best they can be. And I can say a lot of my athletes have accomplished a lot of things in life outside of sports. So, I mean, it's always a proud moment when you can say you coach that athlete or coach that kid, especially Wyatt. Like, I've been so proud of him over the years. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird not being able to coach him anymore now because of the
Yeah, it
new
is weird.
job in the state office. So I think it's going to be really set in when like state basketball comes. I'm like, oh man, I can't coach anymore.
Yeah, I won't even be on the Fremont team anymore because I'm in the Lincoln.
That's
It'd be weird, and I'll
Traitor.
probably end up playing against them.
yeah. I mean, it was definitely weird at flag football. Actually, just like sitting back and watching and then like, oh, I can't coach. Like it's weird to where, yeah, it's a weird transition. But I mean, I can say I actually left my mark on coaching, and I kind of I would say retire, stepped away at the right time. So
Mhm.
now we just need more people to get out there and coach.
Yeah. Who did you look up like to as a coach? As like, did you have any coaches as a kid or coaches on TV that you really admired?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest one, it was actually Nate Schwanke's neighbor, Coach Albaugh. He
Oh,
lived by him for years, and just seeing the history in him
mhm,
and what happened, like the gym's named after him. And
Mhm.
I mean, he taught me a lot about basketball and the love of basketball. And then, of course, I had high school coaches I looked up to, and outside of that, and sports coaches, like my favorite teams, like Mike Shanahan for the Denver Broncos. He was a good
Mhm.
one to where I started learning football and liking football. And then, I mean, I think the biggest influence I had as like, or a person I looked up to coaching was his name is Coach Mel Churchma. He was the head football coach at Northwest Missouri State for a number of years. And
oh yeah.
I just looked up to him because he knew how to win, and he really he kind of spoke to me, like just kind of listening to the games on the radio, going down there when my sister was in school there. That I think he was probably the biggest influence I had coaching.
Nice. And then you went to school there, right?
Yep, I went to Northwest Missouri State for about 3.5, 4 years, and I actually got to coach with him for one season in 2010 as a student assistant on the football team. And that, I mean, being 18, that was probably a dream come true to be like actually get to be on the same sideline as the guy I looked up to for years. So
That's awesome.
that
They're
was
pretty good. And I mean, now were they pretty good back in 2010, 2011?
yeah, they've been good for since the 90s. But
Dang.
when I went there, so 2009 they won the national championship in football. So in 2010, coming off the year of winning the national championship, I mean, they were held to a higher standard on winning and wanting to win. And I mean, to this day, they are still good. I think I read a stat that they made their 18th consecutive playoff appearance. So that's, I mean, that's a pretty good accomplishment to do in
Yeah.
college football, all divisions. So
Yeah.
they've always been good at football. I mean, I might be biased because I went there, but
I mean, they have. They won like several national
Yeah.
championships.
yeah, I believe they're up to 6 now.
That's
So
Dang.
pretty good.
Their basketball team is really good too. I was
yeah,
telling Wyatt a few years back at one point, their football team had won the national championship and their basketball team had just, I don't know if they went undefeated, but I think they won the national championship too. So I
Yeah.
think they just so a great program.
I mean, yeah, their basketball team is probably tops in the nation right now as far as Division II. So, I mean, it was a good school to go to, and I mean, they win. So, I know that back in 2010, their biggest thing was that song "All I Do Is Win" came out that same year, and so that was just kind of the motto back in 2010. Is kind of like we kind of have a chip on our shoulder because everybody wanted to beat us. So,
Mhm.
Why didn't their basketball team? So they won the national championship at D2, so they got to play Duke, right, Wyatt?
Yeah, their basketball team played Duke
Mhm.
one year before the season started,
Yeah.
and they almost. I don't remember like if Duke pulled away at the end, but it was close for like
yeah,
at least half the game or
Yeah.
more.
Mhm.
And then Coach K, I can't remember the point guard's name, but he said that guy could play in the ACC. Like,
No, was it Trevor Hudson?
yes, that's
Yeah.
it.
So I mean, I watched that game because I'm like, that's my alma mater, and they played Duke close. I mean, I think
Yeah.
Duke won by like 25, 26 points, but still, to say like you went into Cameron Indoor and competed with the best basketball team in the country was just kind of a cool thing to say. Like just to be like, I graduated from there. Look at that. But yeah, that Trevor kid is insane.
Yeah, I heard he made like the Rockets too. Like he made
Yeah.
like
So he signed a 2-way contract with the Rockets. So he's actually gotten some NBA playing time this year. So
Wow.
that's pretty cool.
That's insane.
small school like that.
So
Good.
you get like the culture you learned in college through sports, like it'd be cool to see that also bring to like Special Olympics. And do you think I don't know, like 3 years from now or whatever, you think some like Special Olympics there'll be like more teams competing at like a higher level where you don't have to like wait every 4 years to go to like the USA games where maybe you do like unified schools or you take like the best basketball team in Nebraska and you play the best unified basketball team in Colorado or something like that, like just to promote it more.
I mean, we could always hope to be able to do a competition like that every year, but
Mhm.
we are getting more competitive as a state. So
Right.
we have a lot of great basketball teams statewide. Now in my new role, I could kind of see teams outside of what I knew for 15 years was Fremont. So I get to see some of these teams that and get to know them and be like, wow, they're really good. And I mean, from the teams we played in the past, they're
Yeah.
only getting better. So I think our competition level at Special Olympics Nebraska, I mean, we're good. Like it's good. Like there's not really a bad team per se. Like
Yeah.
every team has great capabilities and they do something great other teams don't. And it's really cool to see that like how it's growing more and more. And I mean, hopefully now with COVID kind of being on the backside of things, it's not completely gone yet, but I think in 3 to 5 years, we could really see the state grow and get more competitive and get more teams out there. And maybe hopefully it'll transition into maybe like a mid-state thing or maybe a couple states get together. I mean, that's my vision is try to kind of grow our brand a little bit more and reach out to other states and maybe compete.
Yeah. That would be really cool. And just like to get it out there, like, like kind of like high school level, like you already know like all the high school teams and how they do like we were saying, like when we were in high school, the three of us, Special Olympics, no one really knew about it.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see like even just from like you and I, Dylan, that you coaching me throughout the years, like Special Olympics in general, like because of people like us. They like grew more. And
Yeah.
we just got the word out. So hopefully it doesn't have to come down to like us just trying to tell people about it. Like people just know, like, oh yeah, there's Special Olympics and there's all these great teams at different levels. And I go watch their games and stuff. And it'd
And I
be really cool
know
to see that.
the last 15 years we've been really been pushing at Special Olympics International was unified schools.
Yeah.
So unified champion schools and stuff. So now we're getting into schools knowing that there's sports offered and stuff and they compete. So there's more tournaments for school age kids more rather than just playing in the regional competition and state competition. They have more just we have more teams because of that reason. And I mean, Nebraska's done a great job of promoting unified champion schools. And I think we're kind of because at Nebraska we had 19, I believe we had 19 unified champion schools in the state. So I mean, I think that's probably some of the most in like in all 50 states, those 19. So
Yeah.
we're promoting the sport more and more and more and all that. So it's a good
Why,
feeling.
why well, both of you guys talking about, so when you first started volunteering back in 09 and when Wyatt, where you were participating and talking about no one knowing Special Olympics or really what it was about, and now to where we're at, and you explain what 19 unified schools and then all the national, what every 4 years. And so how far it's came since then is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's grown quite a bit and it's really cool just to be a part of it now as a staff member, but back then coaching for 15 years, it's just we try to spread the word of inclusion, and it's okay to be competing at all levels. So yeah, it's really, I mean, why do you think it's really grown since you've become
I
an
think it
athlete?
has. Because like I feel like there you can see like more people like come to our events, and even whether it's just volunteers or like at the USA Games this past summer in Orlando, Florida, they made a thing called like fans in the stands, and just like random people would come watch us, and I thought that was cool. And I can tell like the unified schools, like you said, really help because that's where it all starts. Is like the kids know about the unified, and then when they go on to college and out of college, and you're 20 years old, like I am, then like it's like, oh yeah, I know about Special Olympics because I did it in high school and I was on the unified team and went to their games. Like I heard like the Papillion school district, like instead of doing like a pep rally, they like play each other in like a unified game. So I mean that's pretty cool. It's like this huge thing. I think I saw one year like one of the athletes made like a buzzer beater. The whole place went crazy. I mean the whole gym was like packed. And that's what I mean, that would have been cool like when we were in high school, like it being cool to do something like that. But just kind of started, like I said, with people like Dylan and I getting the word out then so they could do it then today and have those great experiences. So what are some of your great like moments in Special Olympics where you're like you kind of thought like, you don't get that in any other league, or like this is like I'm so glad I'm part of this league and not, coaching somewhere else, because I feel like, Special Olympics has that great competitive quality or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great moments I had, but I think a couple that stand out was back in 2010 when it was called National Games. I got to coach a first ever national championship flag football team for the state of Nebraska. So, I mean, that was early on, like some of the greatest accomplishments I had. But I really think this last summer in 2022, when we took a basketball team to Orlando, Florida for USA Games, I think that might have been the best coaching moment I had, was just to be down there and competing with the best of the best. And I know we didn't get the finish we wanted, but we finished 4th out of 13 teams, which at today's day, just to say that you're the 4th best team in the country is hard to beat. And yeah, it was a very, very memorable week, but a very long week, very hot week. But I wouldn't trade it. Like, to say I can end my coaching career on that note right there was kind of like icing on the cake for me. Like,
yeah, and then for football at nationals, you guys won like at the last second, didn't you?
yeah, I can't remember because it's been 12 years and I'm getting older, but I remember playing. I remember the team. It was Arkansas. We played Arkansas. It was close and close, and we just ended up doing something right at the end to be crowned national champion. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and then like same thing kind of happened to us, where it came down to like the last minute, and we
Mm.
just kind of like couldn't finish it. And it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't even the championship game. It was like to get third, but it was like I was telling Wes, because my brother Wes and I played, and I was like, look at the states we like played against: Texas, Michigan, Florida, and like in college basketball, those are the teams you think about. Nobody would ever think about Nebraska, like
Right.
nobody.
So
And
true.
and like we played Arizona the first game, and I mean we beat them. And you would think about Arizona before you think about Nebraska for basketball. And I just thought, like you said, it was cool that we just little old Nebraska finished in the top four.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah, there was a lot of great teams there that week, and
yeah,
to say we actually competed with them, like I feel like our third place game was had kind of like more of a championship feel to it than anything. Like that was probably the most intense game I've ever coached to be part of and stuff like that, because it was back and forth, back and forth. We jumped out to pretty good lead. I think it was like 18 points maybe.
we were up by 14 and a half.
Well, 14 and a half, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, they battled back, but I wouldn't trade that for
No,
anything. Like
that first half of basketball that we played, that was like to be on any basketball team I played on. That was like the best half I've ever been a part of on a basketball team.
yeah, I mean
Like,
everything went right that half.
yeah,
Every basket fell. We just played defense right. Everything was just right. And I tried not to get too excited at halftime because I'm like, we still have a half to play. It's 0-0.
right.
But deep down inside, I'm just like, holy crap! Like this is awesome. Like just
Yeah.
be part of it. I mean,
And we still played good in the second half. It's just like, I mean, you see it happen. Like you can't play. Like I swear we had to shoot like maybe a little over 50%. And we were like making everything. And then like, we went cold, but it was like you said, it was still fun to battle. And it felt like a championship game, but it was really just for third place. And that's
yeah.
how cool it felt. Like,
I mean, we just ran out of gas. I mean, we played 5 games in 5 days. So
yeah.
it's just
And
in dealing with the heat and all that. It was just tough basketball. I mean, and we played hard every single game, all 5 games. We never kind of let up. It was just like half of our athletes are just like drenched in sweat and tired. They're like walking back to the room. They're like, I just want to go back and sleep. We're like, will you? It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on that court.
yeah.
And we kind of set that standard a year prior to that, saying, hey, if you want to be the best, you got to practice hard, compete with the best, and do that. So I think Wyatt, I think the coaches kind of set a tone right away. I don't know. That's just me
Yeah.
talking.
Definitely.
I think we
remember-
set a tone.
I remember the first practice one time. Well, one I remember because it was like you had to swim to get there because it was like
Yeah.
raining so hard. No one knew if they were gonna make it. Like there was like water leaking inside the gym at the YMCA.
Yeah.
I remember.
It was
And
insane.
it's like
It
the
was
middle of
hot.
July.
Yeah, it was
And
hot.
there's no air conditioning.
No.
And but I just remember like standing there at the baseline, and I don't know, you could just have that feel like no matter what happens, like this is gonna be a great team. And I mean, we, like you said, we battled. And what I thought, whether it's like the all-star team, like for USA games or just a local team, the thing I thought was cool about Special Olympics, what I learned in high school was like in Special Olympics, nobody cares who scores, who doesn't score. Like we all just want to like at the end of the day, like you have fun, but like win the game, whatever it takes. Like, in high school and I think college, you see like a lot of guys, they're not playing, they complain about it and stuff, or they're not getting their points. But in Special Olympics, you really don't see that like at all.
And I mean, yeah, they're win or lose, every athlete's going to be happy.
Right.
And it brings out something in you that you're just like, wow, like all those years I competed in sports, I'm like, I always got mad when I lost.
Mhm.
When I turned to coaching, I'm like seeing like it's okay to lose, and I'm like, wow, they just lost and they're still happy.
I
Like,
still got
it-
mad.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just competitive as it is.
Yeah,
Wyatt's just pissed.
I mean,
Everyone
I
else
just
you
was mad
you would
inside.
win. You would win and you'd still be mad, Wyatt. Come on.
I would not win. I wouldn't be mad when we won.
you
Well,
you
would-
would
yeah.
why you would talk about that three you missed in the corner, or you should have
Oh,
had this
yeah.
layup, but
that's because I had a brother. I'd play good. One
yeah,
time, I
Wes was
played
probably
really
on you.
good. One time I played like really good, and this coach was like, "Oh, he's like, he's one of the best players here," which I knew I wasn't. And but when I turn around and Wes is like, my brother Wes was like, "Yeah, you're not the best player. You missed this. I think you turned it over here." I was like, "Yeah, I know."
Well, after that third place game, I was talking to the Texas coach, and he's like, that little guy over there is good. And I'm like, but he's gonna be mad because he didn't win. Like he had high praise for. He's like, he's one of the best basketball players I've ever seen. So
Thanks.
to hear that from him, I'm just like, but he made that three, but he's gonna be mad still. Like,
Yeah, because like if I would have missed it and we would have won, still, but
but
it is what it
Yeah.
is. I mean, it was still like I told my brother Wes after the game, I was like, "Yeah, I'm mad we lost," but I was like, as a moment in sports, like making that three, definitely like one of the highlights because like that. I mean, that was like one. It was last basket we scored in the game, and it was
Mhm.
to put us up. And my thought was when I shot it, I was like, I don't care if I miss, I'm shooting this when I get it because we needed a shot and.
Yeah, because that put us up by 2, and I'm like, I kind of had the feeling I'm like, oh yeah, might actually do this, but then Texas just ran a great play to
Yeah.
nail that three, and it's just like it was heartbreaking. But to say that you put us ahead in the game,
Mhm.
you should have seen the stands when you made that three. It was probably the craziest thing I've ever seen because everybody was jumping. All of this, like all the big shots at state were just like, oh my God, what just happened? And like the gym just kind of was electric on our side. I mean, that whole week we had great fans in the stands, but when you
I was-
made that three, it was probably the
Yeah.
best.
I was telling my dad, the guy that came down and like hit the three to put him up, and then they stayed up. I was like, honestly, if you think about it, it was kind of cool because the athlete that made the three, his hands were like inward. Like I think he had cerebral palsy, like me. So his shot was a granny shot, and he granny shot the shot from like the 3-point line. It was like, just like
what?
I know. It was like at the moment, competing, it was like, well, that sucks. But then like I was like, hanging out with my dad after the game. I was like, if you're like just like a regular fan of Special Olympics, that's pretty impressive to make it a granny shot from 3-point line. And he probably practiced it like all the time because that's his shot. But and that's like that was cool about Special Olympics is like you learn to adapt to what your ability is, and he couldn't, shoot like a normal basketball shot, so he learned how to shoot granny shot, and that's how he made all his shots. So that actually was like, if you're a fan of Special Olympics, like that's pretty cool to see and impressive that he made it that way. So,
Yeah, it was definitely cool. Kind of minute and a half in that game.
oh yeah,
It was very
So
intense
intense.
too. I was sweating like crazy,
yeah. And
to say the least.
Oh man, such a fun time. Well, Dylan, before we go here, what is your take on Nebraska football or basketball? Are you a Creighton basketball fan at all? What's your team?
I grew up a Kansas basketball fan.
Oh
So,
yeah, I
I mean, that's back when Nebraska had Doc Sadler. They weren't very
Mhm.
good. So
Mhm.
I kind of like, oh, Bill Self, Kansas. Okay. Kind of close by. So
They
I grew
won.
up a Kansas basketball fan and kind of been with them
Nice.
since I was little. But I mean, I've heard a lot of hot takes here in Lincoln about the new Nebraska football coach. And I don't know if I want to say it's too good to be true, but
Yeah.
it's insane to hear the name that's going around.
Yeah.
So-
You want to take any cracks at who it's going to be? Because this will probably come out after the head coach is announced. So, I
Right.
mean, you could have predicted it.
I mean,
There's a lot of hot takes.
yeah, I mean, I know who. It's hard. I know Matt Rule's been kind of
Yeah.
thrown out there, and that's kind of the guy. But I've also heard Gary Patterson, the former TCU coach, and
Oh yeah.
I just want a coach that can come in and kind of change culture.
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's kind of down right now. And I mean, Mickey's been doing a really great job of being the interim coach. And I wouldn't be mad if they kind of lifted that interim tag and made him full-time coach, because I mean, he played here, he knows Nebraska football and all the tradition and all that. But I would say I just want a coach that will win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a
That's all that
sad,
matters. Yeah.
sad couple of years being a Nebraska football fan. So
Yeah. You know,
it's time to win now.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. You talk about like, coaches you looked up to. I bet you looked up to Bill Self a lot, being a Kansas fan, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've actually learned a lot of basketball from him and reading his books and stuff and trying to watch as much as I can
Mhm.
of that. But
Definitely. That's awesome.
rock chalk, baby.
They're gonna repeat this year? Back to back?
Ooh.
They might. I mean, tonight's a tough test.
Oh yeah, Duke and
I know you're gonna
Kansas.
be watching.
Oh.
You're Duke.
Duke, Kansas, right here.
I know.
Oh yeah.
I might be texting White during the game.
Oh heck yeah, I'm gonna say something if we win.
I mean, we all know who's gonna win, White. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah, Duke's got
The
it.
Duke, yeah.
Got it.
Oh man.
Oh well, thanks for joining us today, Dylan. We really appreciate you coming
Thank
on,
you.
man.
Appreciate it. Anytime.
All right. See you. What a great interview we had with Dylan. Great stories about Special Olympics and just on being a coach and how coaching Special Olympic athletes really made an impact on his life. And he also made an impact on the athlete's life, like made an impact on my life. All the great stories we share together. And I've always read or watched documentaries about, players are close with their high school or college coaches. And with me, I had a good relationship with both, but never super, super close. But coaches like Dylan are the coaches I have grown really close with. And, we've become, friends outside of just, sports. And, Dylan made a huge impact on my life, along with a lot of other Special Olympic coaches as well. So
Yeah, you can tell that he has made a huge impact on your life, and he still is. Ever since, what was it, 09, when you first started and he was first coaching in high school, when he was in high school.
yeah.
Yeah. So he was a senior or sophomore. You were what, in 6th or 7th grade?
Yeah, I was 7th and he was a junior in high school.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that story about him saying knowing your sister, but yeah, it's really cool to see how he started back then, and to how Special Olympics wasn't as big as it is now, and how it's grown over the last 15 years or so, and where it's at, and some things that he wants to see, as you both want to see, as it's expanded. And that'd be cool to play other states in different areas. I'm sure you have all those dreams to do that too.
yeah, I think it'd be cool to see Special Olympics kind of like a high school level thing.
Yeah.
Say for high school students, you can go out for the high school basketball team, like what you and Wes played on, or you can sign up for the unified team. And I think that would be cool. And you play like Dylan's saying, there's a lot of good teams out there. And we have 19 unified schools. Not all of them are high schools, some are middle school and elementary. But in years to come, maybe unified sports will just be part of the high school sports activities, and then in college as well. So and it all started with guys like Dylan and I, just word of mouth. And still I think that's if you're really passionate about something, which Dylan, you could tell was passionate and still is, obviously, with him working in the office of Special Olympics, is passionate about Special Olympics. And just he's one of the guys that really helped it grow, I feel by just coaching. So
yeah, that would be cool. It's not NSAA certified, or it's not for school wise, is it?
I think some sports are there's unified state bowling.
Okay. Yep.
And then track, I don't, and I could be wrong on this, but I know track, I've seen unified relay teams. That's cool.
Yeah.
And competing at state track would be so cool because everyone goes there. It's all the classes. And so I think that would be really cool to see more. And then there's unified schools for colleges, like University of Nebraska. They have one, and I play in their leagues, but it's not really for the school. It's like intramurals, but it's still, cool
Yeah.
to say. But there's like national tournament and regional tournaments for intramurals at the big D1 schools. And I know I've had a couple of friends play in it. And actually, the University of Nebraska, they won the first ever flag football. I don't know what it's called, but it's like flag football intramurals unified tournament. And so they were like number 1 in the nation. So that's
Dang.
cool to see. And then, like I said, I think just being part of a school and part of a team like really has helped Special Olympics grow, and because it's a community of people. So, and also I
Yeah.
want to say with Dylan, I think it's cool. He started out as a volunteer. He just wanted to help out and coach and help Corey out, who runs the Fremont Special Olympics. And now look at him, he's working for Special Olympics. And I bet he never he probably didn't plan that at the time to work for Special Olympics, but it made that big an impact on him that he wanted to make it his permanent job. So I think that's really cool to see. He went from just a volunteer all the way up to the top, being in the office. So
Yeah. It didn't care what other people were saying, just doing his thing, serving, coaching in high school. So that's pretty awesome.
yeah, that's definitely cool that he didn't care what people thought. Because in high school, I mean, we all do it. Like
Hmm.
you care what people think, but the ones that don't care, are the ones that I think really make a difference in people's lives and can make change. So, and that's definitely what Dylan did. So, all right, thanks for listening and watching the Be Unexpected podcast with Jake and Wyatt. And you can follow us on Instagram and Be Unexpected 100. You can email us at beunexpected100@gmail.com. We also have a YouTube channel, Life with Wyatt Spalding. You can watch the interview with Dylan and our other interviews as well on the Life with Wyatt Spalding YouTube channel. And then stay tuned for more episodes on our podcast, which you can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So thanks for watching. Be unexpected. See ya.
Later.